So I'm here with Tony Robbins. Thanks so much for coming. And very excited about this interview. You are actually one of the 3 people I've been wanting to get on the show since I started the School of Greatness. You were one of them, Will Smith, and The Rock.
I know both. Right?
So
great people.
All 3 of you are extremely inspiring, and you're just up to such big things in the world. And that's what the School of Greatness is all about. So I'm very excited to talk about your new book.
Thank you.
Money Master the Game. I am a very slow reader. And I've only probably read 4 books cover to cover. One's The Alchemist.
Yeah, great.
One's The 4-Hour Workweek. And I'm almost finished with yours.
Okay. This is quite an accomplishment then.
It's a huge accomplishment for me.
It's a big book for anybody.
It's a huge accomplishment, but so interesting. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of earning a lot of money over the last few years. So before, I never knew how to make money. I was an athlete. I was trying to make it to the NFL. That was my only focus was playing sports. I never learned about how to make money. So when I was able to dive into this and really learn the ins and outs of making money, but actually allowing money to make money for you.
Exactly. Make money while you sleep.
Make money while you sleep. It was so interesting, and I feel like I've done a good job of making money over the years, but there's so much more in here that I'm fascinated by.
What's interesting is that I did the same thing. You know, I come from a very poor background. We had no money for food at times, quite literally, and it was rough. So I wanted to make sure money wasn't an issue for my future family. So I figured out how to make money, and I figured when I was 23, I figured out how to make $1 million a year. I went from 38,000 to $1 million. You don't do that by some new strategy. It's a psychological shift as well as a strategy shift. But then I made the same amount of money for 7 straight years, even though I built a dozen new companies, helped more people than ever. But it was like unconsciously, more than $1 million. What are you reading? And I was actually staying in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I arrived at 2 o'clock in the morning. On my work. I didn't have a private plane, so I had to go like 4 different connections for it. And I get in this place. It's a horrible place. I call my kids and I'm talking to someone on the phone. And Maria used to run my house and take me. I said, Maria, I'm sorry so late. I want to talk to my kids. Oh, happy birthday. And then she walked into this place. She says, and I just want to thank you. Last night I was sitting looking at the water. You know what? I looked at this woman's so rich. So I decided, listen, if I can make 38,000 a million, it's not about money. It's like growth. So I went, I want to make 3 million, but I want to make more of it while I sleep. But then I really began to realize it doesn't matter how much money you make. It's really your capacity to take your creativity and stop trading time for money. It's the worst trade in the world. Everybody's a financial trader. They don't realize they're trading. They're trading time. You can't get more time. So this book is how to take anybody, an average person, a millennial just getting out of college with a bunch of debt and saying, how do I really make this work? Or a baby boomer saying, how do I still retire? And the way I did it was I said, I want to interview 50 of the most brilliant financial people in the world. Because most people don't know that I've been working with Paul Tudor Jones, one of the top 10 financial traders in history, for 21 straight years. And he hasn't lost money in 1 year in 21 years.
Right.
We made money in the tech blow up that happened in 2000 and 9/11. In 2008, when the market was down 51% from top to bottom, he made 28% positive, right?
Incredible.
So every day, literally, he emails me, I monitor him, I come see him, I work with him, and pays me 7 figures a year to be able to do this, and I've been able to continually help him go to the next level. But quite frankly, I've learned more from him, I think, than I could ever teach him.
Right.
And he helped me open these doors. So this book is the best from every self-made billionaire that I could find. Carl Icahn, I'm sitting down with this guy. He just made $2 billion in the last 18 months off a $30 million investment off Netflix. He sent an email or a tweet out about Apple saying it was undervalued, and became, 2 hours later, it was worth 17 billion more by a tweet.
Wow.
So the people I've got to hang with over the last 3-4 years have been, I've got a PhD in finance from the people controlling the world's finance. And what I've tried to do is the reason they did that is make it simple and bring it so I can train anybody else. Because in this business, what you don't know will hurt you financially. So I want to know how to protect people and how to help people maximize. And that's why the book.
It's incredible. And what I want to know is why we weren't taught these things growing up.
Me too.
What,
Tell me.
Right? So if they were like, okay, Tony, we're giving you the key to the education system.
Yeah.
And how would you apply, what teachings would you apply into about finances, learning about this, how to generate wealth as opposed to trading time for money, but really leveraging it and investing it the right way? What would you start implementing?
Well, the first thing you want to teach anybody, a child, a kid, anybody, is that you'll never earn your way to freedom. You just don't. You look around and you see, Kurt Schilling, if you remember from Boston Red Sox, in $100 million a year, he's broke. bankrupt. I asked Warren Buffett, I said, what made you the wealthiest man in the world? And he smiled and he said, 3 things. He said, living in America, great opportunities, having good genes, so I lived a long time, and he said, the last thing is compounded interest. And we all know about compound interest, but I give an example in the book of this guy, Theodore Johnson, worked for UPS. He never made more than $14,000 in income in his entire life in a year. And in old age, he was worth $70 million. And how did he do it? All he did was he took a percentage of his income. His percentage was 20%. Now his family said, we can't save any money. But he met a friend who said, if you pretend there's a tax, and the tax just took the money away from you, and you never see it, the money just comes out of your account and goes in an investment account, you'll be financially free. So he was disciplined, he didn't look at it, it happened. $70 million by compounding. So people's mistake is, and kids don't know this, adults don't know this, that you won't earn your way there, but you can compound your way there. Yeah. What I want to do is say, where do you put that money?
That's a trick, right?
That's like a secret. Well, the first trick is actually do it. Almost nobody does.
Right.
The second trick is you really have to understand where you're going to get hurt, because
the fees.
The fees are just destroy people.
You have a whole chapter about the fees. I was like, this is incredible.
Isn't it wild?
It's nuts. Like, you lose so much money just on the fees.
Well, just so people have an understanding, 96% of all mutual funds never match the market, and they never beat the market. So I was just on a morning show this morning, and Michael Bloomberg's one of his guys now some of his money. So I'm, this is the only industry I know of where people think they can be a doctor. They think they can be a financial planner. And I said to myself, look, the statistics, Warren Buffett taught me this. He said, Ray Dalio told me this. David Swenson, who took Yale from $1 billion to $24 billion in 2 decades. These people tell me this. Right. Nobody beats the market except a couple of unicorns that nobody has access to. And I said, I didn't say you're not one of them. But I said, here's the truth. 96% of mutual funds don't match the market. That means 4% succeed. What are your chances of picking the right mutual fund? People don't know what they're doing. They put their money in a 401k, pick a mutual fund, not knowing what it is. If you play blackjack, and you and I play it, you get 2 face cards, and your inner idiot says, hit me. I want to give 1 chance in a million, but you get 8. So you have an 8% chance of winning. If you try to get a mutual fund, you have a 4% chance of winning. So what I show people is not only do you not get the result, thinking logically, if I hire someone else to do it, they'll do better than me. But in addition, you pay around 2,000% more than it's worth. Meaning you get the same exact product, the same stock. You own the index, right? You own a piece of all America's best companies. Say the Vanguard 500 index, 500 top companies. That costs 0.17%, like less than 0.2% versus the average mutual fund is 3.17. So
compounded over time.
But first, just hear that so you understand. It's like the average car sale in America is a Honda Civic. It's $20,000. You get the Honda Civic for $20,000, you can pay $350,000. That's the difference between 0.17 and 317. But if you look at it over a period of how old are you? 31. So let's assume you and a couple of buddies at 35, managed to put aside $100 grand, and you manage not to add more money, but you're earning 7% slide about $10,000. $60. You pay 1% fees over those 30 years, $100 grand became $574,000. Not bad for a graduate. If you had 3% of fees, had the same growth, but 3% of fees. $4,000 happened. $4 million, $77,000. And you get the same return, just the fee. It's highway robbery. Where in the world would you pay $2,000% more for the same exact product? You can only do it because the financial industry makes things so opaque, so convoluted, and people feel overwhelmed.
And hard to understand.
Very understand. That's why I try to come in here and go, look, time to become the chess player, not the chess piece. Yeah. Let me teach you so you understand what's going on. It's not that complex. They use all these big words, but when you know what's going on, you don't get screwed, and more importantly, you take advantage of the system instead of letting the system take advantage of you.
Yeah, I like that. Now, you've coached some of the world's greatest athletes, former presidents, biggest CEOs. Who coaches you? I've had a lot of people asking me to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Who mentors you? Who coaches you today?
I have always looked for people that were playing the game at a different level than I am, and or knew the road ahead. I always tell people, anticipation is power. If you ever play a video game against a child, it's pretty disastrous, right? Maybe not for you, maybe a different generation. But for me, it's like, it's not the kid is faster and smarter. If they played this game before, like 8 million times. So they know the first shot's here, the second shot's here, the third shot there, and you're like reacting. So when you're reacting to things, you fail. So my mentors have been people over here, different people. My earliest mentor was a man named Jim Rohn. He's a personal development speaker, just touched my life. Then I was involved in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, when I was 21, 22, 23 years old. I became partners with a man named John Grinder, brilliant co-founder of that. But in my last couple decades, it's been people like Peter Guber, who owns the LA Dodgers and owns the Golden State Warriors NBA team. And he's got 52 Academy Award nominations. So he's a mentor for me. Paul Tudor Jones, I coach, but also I'm coached by him because we get to pitch and catch. And then, I've got some people in my life that, like Steve Wynn is a dear friend of mine, built most of Las Vegas.
He's brilliant.
And these guys are all 18 years my senior, so they know the road ahead. And I'm able to learn from them in advance and kind of anticipate things, and that to me is incredibly valuable.
Yeah, very cool. Now, I want to ask you how you personally handle a breakdown. Because I've been to your workshop, and incredible experience.
Thank you.
And you teach people how to overcome their fears and how to handle breakdowns. But how do you personally deal with it? And do you even have any breakdowns?
Yeah, they sent me a list of questions you had just to kind of get people. That was one of the questions. I was like, it's interesting. It's breakdowns. It's certainly not something I experience. It's not because I'm so talented or so brilliant or so fearless. It's just you're like an athlete. You're an athlete.
Yeah.
You're in shape, right? You're not going to have a reaction in your body like somebody who doesn't take care of themselves.
Right.
So, I don't believe in emotional intelligence. I think it's useful, but I'm more interested in emotional fitness. Because intelligence is a capability. Fitness is a state of readiness. If you are fit, you can take that demand right now and you can deal with it. You can deal with that physical stress, that emotional stress. Same thing's true with psychological fitness, emotional fitness, right? So I'm pretty fit. And part of that is not because I'm so smart. Part of it is I've taught this for decades. I remember I had a woman who came to one of my seminars I don't know, early 80s probably. And she would run in this room, 5,000, 10,000 people. I think it was, she went a couple of 10,000 person events. And she would get in this front row, fight her way through there. And she'd jump and go for it. And one break, she came up to me, I was signing a book for her, and she says, she goes, Mr. Robbins, I've seen you at like 8 of these. She goes, I've seen you like when you're really, I know, I can hear your voice, you're hurting, or you haven't slept. And she goes, you always seem to be so up all the time. How come you're so up? And I said, well, part of it is I attend all these seminars. So I'm teaching it. So there's a fitness to that. But there's also, I've buried 3 fathers and 1 mother, and that affects your life. I've had a physician look me in the eye and say you have a tumor in your brain, and so I've had those moments that when you've had extreme stress and you push your way through it, you build psychological muscle. It's like it takes a lot to knock me off. In the early days, we didn't have $50,000 to keep the doors open. How do we do it? Then I had graduated to $5 million. I graduated to a partner that mine didn't do things well, and I ended up owning $100 million because I had to take on his debts. $100 million. But when you do all that stuff, now my companies do $5 billion, a year. So you keep expanding what I would call really the circle of the threshold of your influence. And everybody has a threshold of control. And if you get beyond it, you kind of freak out. So it takes a little bit more. I don't think
you don't really have breakdowns.
I don't have breakdowns. That's the obvious. Tired? Yeah, breakdown, honestly.
So how do you handle it if you get tired or something? Sleep.
When I can.
Okay, cool.
I mean, it's honestly, it's pretty simple. But when I've had challenging times, I have so many tools.
Yeah.
I pull them out. And most of it's, so it's like you as an athlete, you don't just physically break down.
Right.
You take care of yourself. So
Constant training that.
I think most people don't train their mind and emotions. It's like, I think the most powerful muscles to me are not physical, but as strong as important as they are. It's like faith is a muscle, courage is a muscle, determination is a muscle, playfulness is a muscle. Passion unexpressed weakens. Faith untested gets smaller. So I'm always, I call it deep practice. I'm always pushing myself to the edge, and pushing yourself to the edge makes you stronger.
Yeah. In the book, I was really excited to hear you talk about the secret to wealth and gratitude. Somewhere in the book it says that. I think maybe someone else should reference it.
Yes,
and every day I practice gratitude. I wake up, and every night I always try to say to my girlfriend or someone I'm talking to before I sleep. 3 things I'm grateful for. Now, why? So I was pleased to see that. I'm on the right track. Why is that the secret to wealth?
Sir John Templeton is probably one of the greatest investors in history. Started out with nothing. He wasn't sure. He wasn't good at everything. And he decided that he wanted to understand wealth. So $3,000% return.
Not bad.
You could have bought Citibank for less than $1, right? So people in those times, he understood that. And so what he did was, and everybody thought the world was going to end, he took $10,000, he bought every stock on the New York Stock Exchange that was $1 or less, including companies everybody thought were going bankrupt. But when things are bad, people think it's going to be bad forever. When things are good, they think it's going to be good forever. And they're always wrong. Life's cyclical. So there's a season for everything. So once we got through World War II and went a few years later, guess what? Those same stocks made him a billionaire. So when I asked him, I said, what's the secret to wealth? His response when he touched me was, you know it, you teach it. I said, what's that? He said, gratitude. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because if you got $1 billion and every day you live pissed off and frustrated, the quality of your life is called pissed off and frustrated. Right. But if you have nothing, but you're euphorically grateful for whatever you have, you're the richest person that you're going to know. He said, so it doesn't matter how much money you got if you don't have gratitude. So I do the same thing, by the way. I have a process I call priming, where I get up every morning, I do mine in the morning, I just radical change to my body, kind of alter my state. And then I do 10 minutes, I never miss, and my first 3.5 minutes is what I'm really grateful for. And I make myself think of at least one of those three that's something really simplistic, that's something giant, the wind on my face, looking through my kid's eyes, something of that nature. And then I do 3 minutes of strength and healing, and I do 3 minutes of what I'm going to pray to my world. And I do that for a minimum of 10 minutes every day, because I believe you have to condition it. You don't just hope that stuff shows up.
You set your intention each morning.
But I'm not, every day.
Yeah. Grateful. So what are you most grateful for recently in your life?
So many things. Well, Thanksgiving, so one piece. Well, one is my daughter is 4 years old, and she's child forever, and she's going to bring me a grandson.
Wow.
So she's cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's cool. But also, it's Thanksgiving, so for me, it's a very emotional time, because my family was fed when I was 11, and we had no food at Thanksgiving, and it touched me so deeply, and I decided I was going to get back. So when I was 17, I fed 2 families, and then 4, and then 8, and then he told me I was doing it, and then I got my friends to do it, and the companies grew, and I've fed 42 million people now over 37 years. And
but you have a challenge for this, right?
Well, this one, what I did is I decided, I'm writing this book, and in the middle of writing it, last summer, most people didn't even notice, Congress cut food stamps. They don't call them food stamps anymore, but I lived on them, so I know what they are, food stamps. Right. My family lived on them. But they cut it by 8.7 billion, which means you eliminate 2 million people from the rolls overnight, and they still need to eat. So I support all these nonprofit organizations, and Feeding America is the largest in the country. And so I thought, I'm going to call attention to this. So if I donated all the profits of this book in advance, how many people could I feed? Because I normally feed 2 million to my foundation, and I match it, so I feed 4 million a year. And so you feed 10 million people. It's like, wow, I'm in. And then as the years gone by, I got more and more inspired, and so now I'm going to feed 50 million people personally, not just from the book. I'm writing a larger check on top of it, but also I'm working with Feeding America to get matching funds to feed 100 million people.
Incredible.
So to go from my family not being able to eat to feeding 100 million people is a pretty amazing sense of gratitude and a sense of grace. And I've done my part, but there's been grace in that as well.
It's amazing. It's incredible what you're doing. Very inspiring. So thank you for doing that.
So anybody gets the book,
you're
I'm
feeding
not getting
families.
any profit, it's for you. But it also feed on average 50 families every book.
100% is being donated.
100%. Not only 100%.
More than that.
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now, I think I also read in the book, I don't know if you said this or someone else said this, but the key to living is giving.
Yes.
Now, I think I might have heard you say this actually back when I first saw you when I was 16 at an event. And I remember thinking, I don't have anything to give. I don't have any money, how am I supposed to invest my money? 10, 20% every month, and then how can I give on top of that? But I really understood that, it's so valuable and important to give, and I work with a lot of nonprofits myself, and schools for kids around the world. And I've seen a big impact in my life, the way I'm able to serve people.
Sir John Templeton told me that he's never seen anyone tithe, which tithing is usually 10% of what you earn, for at least a decade, and you become incredibly financially free. And I think the reason is, I had a moment like my whole life changed. It's kind of twofold. I was really young, like yourself back then, right? Working my tail off, trying to build a business. Big goals, succeed to start with. Right. Come together, right? It was hard. And I remember I was so frustrated because I was working 18-hour days and nothing was working, and I was broke, and I felt embarrassed. I should be doing better than this. Sure. And so I was driving home from Orange County on the 57th freeway in San Gabriel Valley out here in Pomona, California. Probably not even I remember so vividly because I was almost at 90. And I was at this breaking point. And then I was like, why am I not doing better? And then I just pulled over the road, and I used to keep these journals. I still have them written journals. And I wrote big lines, the secret to living is giving. And I started crying. And I realized I I am so focused on what am I not getting.
Receiving.
I'm not focusing on what I'm giving.
Yeah.
So for 6 months, man, it turned me around. But then, something has to get in your body. It was in my head, it was in my heart, but it had to get in there to stay. And I started getting through some really tough times, and I lost everything financially. And I was mad at him. He was like, I loaned a friend $1,000, and I've been doing well. And he didn't return my phone call. And what changed me was I was down around $22, $23, something like that. Enough that I knew that I didn't have money for food for the next week. And I didn't have any prospects. And I was living in Venice, and I was living in a bachelor apartment. Sorry for myself. And I thought, you know what, I got to eat. So I'm not going to drive my car, because I'm going to spend gas. I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to go to all you can eat place and load up for the winter, right? So I can eat more like one meal a day. And so this place I'm going to go right now, farm days. Attractive lady. That's probably what caught my attention. And I'm waiting to see who her boyfriend is, and there's nobody up there. There's a little guy down here. It was obviously her son. And he's wearing this three-piece suit, a little vest. He opens the door for her. He pulls out the chair for her. And it was just, he stared into his mother's eyes. I mean, it was just pierced into her eyes. I don't know what it was, but something about him was just so moving. He was such a sweet, caring, loving young man. His mother that moved me. So I paid for my meal. I don't know what's left, 17, 18 bucks. I put it back in my pocket, what was left. Walked up to this young man, introduced myself, and I said, hi, I don't understand. I think he said his name's Ronnie. And I said, Ronnie, I said, you're a class act. I said, how you opened the door for your lady. I said, how you held up the chair for your lady. He goes, I said, that's even more classy. Right. And I said, so cool that you're taking out to lunch like this. He goes, well, I'm not really taking out lunch because I'm just 11 and don't have a job, I said, yes, you are. And I had no plan. I literally just reached in my pocket, took all the money I had, changed dollar bills, and threw it right there in front of him. He looked at me like this. He goes, I can't take that. I said, sure you can. He said, well, why? I said, because I'm bigger than you are. Right? And he got this big grin on his face. His eyes got this big. And I just shook his hand. I didn't even look at his mom. And I just walked out the door. But the reason I tell you the story is I had no car. I had no money. I was euphoric. I was like flying home. I was like, I probably looked like an idiot. I was skipping or something. I was just, and what I felt was, I should have been like, what the hell did you just do? I had no meal, or I was going to eat. I went home that night, I laid out a plan, and the plan was going to take me, 10 days, 2 weeks. So I thought, well, people fast for a week. I could fast for a week, that type of thing. And I have this great mindset about it. And I woke up the next morning, and I get the old regular snail mail shows up, and it's this guy I've called a zillion times. He wouldn't return my call. I open it up, there's a check, $1,000 plus interest and an apology. Wow. So I'm sitting there, and I started to cry, honestly, and I was just like, why did this happen? And I don't know if it's true, but I decided that day this happened because I did the right thing. Because I didn't have a plan, it wasn't a strategy. I just felt this little soul beside me, and I knew it was right, and I did it. And I didn't do it because I thought I could or I couldn't. I didn't even think about it. And that's the day I became a wealthy man, because I didn't have any money, but scarcity left my body. And I have plenty of ups and downs since that time, various times in my life, but I never went back to that, oh my God, how's it gonna happen? It's like breathing. Do you stop and say, God, is there gonna be any air before you take a breath? You know it's gonna be there. Right. You don't run your life by that aspect. And so that to me is what it's about, is showing people, if you won't give a dime out of a dollar, don't bullshit yourself. You'll never give $1 million out of 10 million or 10 million out of 100 million. It's just not going to happen. But if you can do that now, you don't ever get beyond scarcity. You start behind it. You make a decision to get beyond it.
So how does someone, when they're living in scarcity, living in fear, and it's like this emotional feeling, it's in your body, like you say, when you're like, I can't even pay for my meal, how am I going to start giving? What are some things that people can do to start overcoming that mindset, or start strengthening it, or shifting it?
I'll tell you a couple things. I'll tell you what I did when I was first on my own. I got my mom kicked my dad out when I was 17. She's a very powerful woman. I had 4 fathers, so they all learned how to get the boot. She thought I was on his side, so she kicked me out next. I was 17. She chased me out with a knife. She wouldn't have hurt me, but I wasn't going back in the room. And that's how I figured out what to do. And I didn't have a place to stay, and I didn't stay in somebody's laundry room for a while, and then I started reading and feeding my mind, and then I developed this little system, and the system was really simple, and I tell people now, as I say, number 1, every single day, you got to feed and strengthen your mind. Until you do that, you're always going to be in fear, because fear is automatic. The human brain is designed for survival. It's not designed for success. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. That's your job. Right. And the only way you're going to do it is if you feed your mind, because otherwise, when weeds grow automatically. My coach, my mentor Jim Rohn used to tell me, he said, Tony, every day you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. You got to watch what's going in, because if you're not careful, stuff will go in. And he said, all the times it's somebody who cares about you. He said, if your
family,
if your worst enemy puts sugar in your coffee, he said, what happens? I said, you got sweet coffee. He goes, well, if your best friend by accident or your family don't mean to, they drop one drop of strychnine in your coffee, you're dead. He said, so light sugar and strychnine and watch your coffee.
Right.
So every day I decided, I'm old enough, honestly, there was no internet those days, and creation, I used to go to the library, there's no place to go, and I read biographies, I read people's lives, and I make me go, wait a second, bad as I think it is, the greatest people in the world had it worse.
Sure.
So there's something here. So you feed your mind. Jim Rohn used to say to me, skip a meal but don't skip reading. He said, read 30 minutes a day, I don't give a damn what it is. Today I don't need internet crap. I mean, read something, a biography, read something that's a strategy, read something that's going to change your life. And the second thing I tell people is, feeding your mind's great, you've got to also strengthen your body. And you do that as an athlete naturally. I learned to do that because fear is physical, right? You know where you feel it. And if you go work out, if you go lift, if you go run, even if you're out of shape, you just go for an intense walk, that experience alone changes your life. Every day of my life, the first thing I do before I do my priming, if I'm at one of my homes, I jump in some hot water for fun, and then I jump in freezing water. And I have a river, homes in the valley, and I've got cold plunges everywhere. So I go in 57 degree water, boom. And what it does is, it's teaching my brain. I tell my brain what to do, and it doesn't. It doesn't feel like it, doesn't want to do it, and every cell in your body is alive, right? So it doesn't have to be 2 hours with something. It can be something you do for 30 seconds, but it's training your body strong. It's a strong body, a strong mind, vice versa. The third thing I tell people is my whole mind. It's impossible to see somebody's life. So the reality is, that is the cat. There's dad. Dad's decisions, mom, it's a woman that goes to Thanksgiving. We have our basket brigade where 2 million people get fed.
Amazing.
Not the one I do, the one that I get people to do. And it's amazing. People go in there and they see, my God, I thought my life was tough. Look at this person's life and make sure appreciative and puts life in perspective.
Yeah, very cool. Now, talking about feeding the mind, if you could only leave 3 books behind, end of your life, 3 books behind to your kids.
Yes.
And or the message to the world of here's the 3 most important books that you should read. What are those 3 books that
all the books I've read?
You only pick 3.
That's a tough one. I don't know if I can do that, but I'll tell 3 off the top of my head. I'd say Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, because all of us in our lives have experienced extreme stress. I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how much people love and respect you, you'll have your time. It might be a health issue in your family, it might be something happens to the economy, something happens to all of us. And so to see how people that were put in the most insane, unjust environment, people that were in Auschwitz, how they dealt with that unbelievable situation, and how the ones that thrived in spite of it, and to go through Viktor Frankl's way of understanding how to bring meaning in your life, I don't think there's a more important book. I think maybe another one might be As Men Thinketh, because it's a book that you can read dozens of times in your life. It's small, and it's the core of everything. As you think, so you are. I mean, obviously the Bible is an extraordinary book, or whatever religious document a person believes. I'm personally Christian, but I tell people whatever you believe, you need to practice it, whatever it is, because there are many different ways of connecting, to what has created us. And then that's 3 already, but I'll give you 1 more. I think another one that's important would be understanding the life cycles of humanity. There's a book called Generations. It's a big book. It's like 1,000 pages, 800 pages.
Bigger than this one.
Much bigger than this book. But it's a book worth reading because it shows you how, as every 100 years, 80 to 100 years, we run through the same cycles. Like what we've just gone through economically in 2008, happened 80 years before. And you can go through 1,000 years of Roman history and you see it. And when you begin to be able to anticipate what's coming, you know how to take advantage of the season. Some people freeze to death in the winter. People that are prepared might snowboard or ski and have a good time. So it's a brilliant book, and it's by Strauss and Hounds.
Cool. All right, so those are 4. I'm curious, why didn't you recommend one of your books?
I don't think I'm the first book in history.
I'm just teasing.
I'd frankly have put someone in that.
Exactly, yeah. Events are incredible. This is a question from your son.
Yes.
And I said, is there any question you haven't asked your dad that you're still curious about? And he said, yeah. You know, he's pretty calm, actually. You know, he's a calm guy. He's not outrageous like you.
He's pretty outrageous.
And he said, you know, my dad does everything on such a big scale. Everything is big. Everything is huge, impactful. It's like the biggest it can be, the best it can be.
Yeah.
He said, but I wonder what something small he's done that he's so proud of. So is there something small you've done? You know, an example was giving money to, you know, that child is a great example of that. But is there something recently you've done that's so small that you're like really proud of?
You know, a lot of people don't think proud is a good term. I think it actually is. Ego is edging God out. That's when you make shit up to make yourself feel good. But I think if you've really done something, you know you have, and no one can take that from you. And so I'm proud of who I am as a man. I'm proud of the things that, you know, what goes on when the camera's not on. And there are people around me all the time that will tell other people stories about what I'm really like, so I don't have to communicate that to people. It gets shared. So I don't know. There's so many things in life. I don't measure them as big versus small.
Sure.
My wife was somebody who would see one person in me throw, and I had to see, you know, 10,000. I think so. She's balanced it out for me. I feel like life is short, and while you're here, I'm gonna have the most impact that I can. So I go deep and I go wide. But every interaction to me is an important interaction, and sometimes that interaction is just being kind. But the kindness to the right place, at the right time, when somebody is suicidal, you know, being kind and changing their state. There's an interesting story of a gentleman who wanted to kill Nixon and couldn't get access to Nixon. It's a true story. And so he wrote a journal. That's how we know the details of it. And he said he's going to go after Wallace. And he actually could do that too. And when they read his journal, it was fascinating. He didn't want to kill Nixon because he didn't like him or Wallace. He just wanted to be famous. He wanted to be worth something. And one of the reasons he didn't kill Nixon is he was going after Nixon, and he was this far from the president, and an old woman bumped into him just as he's reaching his pocket to get this gun. And in the middle of this, everything's frenzied. He wants to shoot, become the most famous man, you know, another one of those assassins. And this woman grabbed his hand and said, "I'm so sorry. I'm just so sorry." And he said in his journal afterwards, his hand was on the gun.
Wow.
And her looking in his eyes, with this love in her eyes, and this kindness in her eyes, he said, "I couldn't make her witness that," and he put the gun away.
Oh, man.
That's in Nixon's life. He's going after Wallace. You know? But that's the power of a woman of kindness. So I can really underestimate. Somebody came and fed my family that's 11 years old. Obviously, the person was not their lives. They told the story. They haven't reached out to me. But I mean, imagine what the impact that was by that.
Go back to 31. 31 is my age. What are the three things you do based on the asset allocation, fees, understanding what you're putting on, understanding fund
What I know today?
yeah, so go back to 31 years old. What would you do?
So, I would take and I would model one of the best masters. It was me, one of the people. Asset allocation, so people are clear, is the one thing that I met with David Swenson. He took $1 billion, turned it into $24 billion in 2 decades, 20 years. It's just mind-boggling. $1 billion a year, right? Just think about that double doubling. It's just mind-boggling. And I asked him, I said, what are the dials? What are the only dials we can touch? And he said, Tony, to increase your return, there's only 2 things you can do. He said, you can make better selections of stocks. He said, you can have better timing. He said, and you can have better asset allocation. He said, the first 2 will never happen because the first 2 cost you money. You got to hire somebody. Everybody's wrong in the timing. He said, asset allocation, which simply means dividing your money into different buckets. Some of those buckets are secure so that even though you think you're going to be a genius, you're going to make money no matter what, that money goes slower, but it'll always be there and it'll give you freedom for the rest of your life. There's a growth bucket, which is also a risk bucket. We forget that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things Ray Dalio taught me, he said, Tony, everybody invests in what they think they know. So you grew up with real estate, you're not a genius, but you made money in real estate because anybody can when real estate's going up.
Yeah.
You think you're a genius. You think you know stocks. Oh, you're a genius, you know, in 1999, right?
Sure.
You know, you're a genius in 2010 when things started to grow a bit. He said, whatever you invest in your lifetime, that area is going to drop 50 to 70%. There's 0 exceptions, show you mathematically, and he can show you historically. So he said, you have to diversify even though you don't want to. And you have to divide these monies up. So every one of them taught me different asset allocations. But the one that I think is the most valuable for anybody to really take advantage of is Ray Dalio. Because Ray Dalio's figured out, why is it in 2008, if your stockbroker, your financial planner said, we're going to protect you, we're going to put you half in stocks and half in bonds, why did they both go down? You weren't protected at all. Same thing happened in 2000. And you figured something out. When you think you're in a balanced portfolio, you're not balanced. The reason is stocks are 3 times more volatile than you'll find in bonds. What does that mean? When you think you're 50-50, you're 50-50 with your money, but you're not 50-50 with your risk. You're 95% at risk and 5% on the good side. That's why everybody loses. So he figured a formula, because he said, look, someday I'm going to be gone. I want my kids to have the money long term. I want all the philanthropic things I'm going to be taken care of. So he spent 15 years studying the markets and figured out how do I design a portfolio that'll make money every time. Like if it loses money, it lost in 75 years, it's lost 1.6% when it's lost, but it can write 85% of the time. If you went to Vegas and you got a plan that worked for 75 years and made money 85% of the time, and when you lost 1.6%, and when you gained more than 10%. The biggest loss in 75 years is 3.95%, less than 4. So why did people not make it in the stock market? Because when you take a 50% hit, they all say stay in. Nobody, the average person never stays in.
Sure.
If you look at the last 20 years, the average person, the stock market over 20 years, from 1993 to 2013, has averaged 9.2%. Pretty cool compounding. You double your money pretty damn quick doing that.
Right.
But the average mutual fund investors made 2.5%. Why? Because they freak out, they sell when it goes down, they buy when it's looking good, it's the wrong time to buy it. They don't know what to do. So what Ray Dalio's strategy does, and by the way, he's never shared this strategy ever publicly.
And he gives it in here.
He gives it in here, which is mind-boggling.
Very cool.
I pushed him, I teased him, I cajoled him. In the end, I said, look, you're not taking any more money, help the average guy out. He lays it out. You can do it yourself or you can have someone else do it for you, but it takes 15 minutes a year and 85% success over 75 years. And I can take any time period, the last 30 years. He lost money 4 times. One of those is 0.003%, so it's really breaking even. And again, the most he ever lost, less than 4%, average 1.9%. So if you're looking for a plan, I put some money there. Then the other money that I would do is I take some of that money and I look at what are the biggest trends. I have a lot of my money also in senior housing. And the reason is twofold. It's a demographic inevitability. There's this giant wave of baby boomers, and there isn't enough senior housing to take care of them. And I like it. I like to create a quality place for someone to be able to live and take care of themselves. But there's huge income from it, and there's the growth of the asset itself. So I'd be looking at what are the big trends, and I would make sure I locked down a segment of my money that just I took a percentage of my income no matter what, and I did it really big, and I never have to work again. And that's where I am now. I don't have to work. What's ironic is when you interview people that make at least $750,000 a year, right, just under $1 million, 80% of them say they'll never retire. When you interview people that make a very little amount of money, they all talk about wanting to retire. Right. And the people that do retire say they'll retire after 75. Like Steve Wynn, he's 72. Warren Buffett's 84.
Still working.
I met with Jack Bogle, who created Vanguard. He's been in the business 63 years.
Wow.
He's 85 years old and such a genius. Sitting down there, he spent 4 hours with me, by the way. Just came by for 45 minutes. He wrote in the book here, he goes, Tony Robbins came by for 45 minutes. 4 hours later, I had the most provocative and probing interview of my life, he said. But the guy's still in the game. Because the real goal is not to have to work. If you don't work, you will start working mad. You all need to be productive to feel alive.
Interesting. A couple questions left for you.
Sure.
One of them is, what's your definition of greatness?
I don't know. I think everyone has greatness. I don't like that separation. I respect it because in sports, I think it's really stable. But sports is one aspect of life. I've never really got to lead and to stand out from all the rest. And in sports, by 100 seconds, right? Olympics, and those here, you stand out. If you stand out, not in the right sense. Other people get inspired. Others inspire us to be the best in the world. I think that this is something that will not settle for as opposed to fitting in. I think most people are trying to not be rejected. I wrote in this book, I took a quote from Aristotle saying, how do you really live your life? Well, if you don't want to upset anybody, it's really simple. Don't do anything, don't say anything, don't be anything, and everybody will like you. But if you want to have a quality life, I think you just have to put yourself on the line. And so to to me, greatness is people that put themselves on the line and keep growing. They won't settle.
So what's next for you? What are you still up to? I mean, why are you going after inspiring 100 million people, feeding 100 million people? What's next?
Why not? Right? It's like, what else are you going to do with your life? I look at, there are lots of challenges. I mean, this was a problem I wanted to go after. It's a problem because people are being abused by a system that nobody means to abuse it. It's just, it's not an evil system. It's just, you have large corporations that are set up to make a profit, and that's their job. They're not set up to make you as an investor more profitable. So they take care of their shareholder first, so they get all the fees they can and manipulate the system. So I want to give people freedom. You know, to me that's valuable. But you know, what I do in my life is I look at what I see that moves me. You know, I always tell people ask me about speaking, I say, you know, how do you be an effective speaker? I said, don't speak about shit you're not passionate about. You know, and if you don't have a true edge where you can help somebody. If you can add massive value and you're passionate about it, then talk about it. Otherwise, shut the, you know what up. You know, that's my view. So when I find things that I'm very passionate about, I like to go deep. I think we live in a Facebook world, a Twitter world, a tweeting world, texting world, where people are, by technology, not realizing they're becoming more and more shallow. You know, people ending relationships by texting now.
Right.
It's like, you know, are you kidding me? They go, why is the person upset? I can't understand. Did you see this? I texted you. And I look at them going, are you kidding? But technology is making us think that our Facebook friends are our friends. And it can't play. There's only a few friends you can go deep with. You can't have 10,000 friends. You go deep. And I think a lot of people are dissatisfied because technology is making us go faster and faster. So I look for things to go deep in. And I think in our lives, there's a few areas that matter. Your body, your emotions, your spirit, your relationships, your economics, your business. Those half a dozen or so areas that I like looking at and I keep going.
Sure. Chad Moretta asked me to, he said, all the interviews you've done lately for promoting his book have been very intellectual. He said, I'd love to see you get him in his physical state and show your move. So in a second, I want to see if you'd be open to doing a thumb wrestling and getting into state so we can show people how you do this. If you're open to it. If you're open to it. In a second.
You go to getting in state. Getting in state that's not what it's about. Go ahead.
I would love to see how you get into it. Right before you go on stage or whatever.
I don't go to state to thumb wrestle. Trust me.
Arm wrestle? But before we do that, if you're open to it, I just want to acknowledge you, Tony. I think it's you've had a huge impact on my life and so many people. I posted last night. I'm going to be interviewing Tony. Is there any questions you guys might have? And hundreds of comments and questions and people saying how you've impacted their lives.
Wow.
So I just want to say thank you for creating the spark for so many people, including myself when I was 16 and watched you for the first time.
Where did you come to the seminar?
It was in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Javits Center back in the day.
Yeah.
It was, I don't think it was UPW. It was like...
It was a one-day event, wasn't it?
It might have been 1 or 2 day. I remember it was like... Donald Trump was there, Dick Vermeil, like a lot of people were there.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad bought us floor seats, like probably halfway back on the floor.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where you walked out, and you came out and you walked right next to me. And I remember thinking, first off, wow, you're really big.
You're pretty big yourself.
I was smaller then, but I remember thinking, how, this is so inspiring that someone can take an idea of what they want, their vision, and create it and manifest it into speaking in front of thousands of people. Really adding so much value to the world and so many people's lives. And I remember then thinking, that's something I would love to do one day, to be able to turn a vision into reality. And, so I want to acknowledge you for creating the spark in so many people. Every workshop you provide, so many people are moved and changed. And so I think it's so powerful to acknowledge you for that.
I appreciate it. That's one of your triggers.
Thank you. I'd love to do this move if you could do it. If you're open to get it up.
So what do you want to do? You want to thumb wrestle?
I want to see you do your move, if you can show. You open to it? No. Okay, let's thumb wrestle.
It's just totally artificial.
Let's thumb
it's
wrestle.
like me talking about passion, right? You said don't do it if you're not passionate.
Okay.
I'm passionate thumb wrestle, but how do we do this?
So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare thumb one. Okay, have you ever done this before?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. You got to get my thumb down. You got to hold it for 3 seconds.
Okay.
You got big hands.
Okay, that's going to go on for 20 minutes.
Oh, you got me.
I think you got me. You have to be too easy.
No, Robert, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you
so much. Continue your great works.
Thank you. Awesome. I got to give you a hug.